Hello, welcome to Bloody Good. My name is Montgomery and I've been a horror fan my whole life.
My name's Emily and I've just been dipping my toes into the genre lately.
And today, this is Old versus New, where we take a look at the original and remake of a movie.
We decide which is best based on our phlegm vibes model. This includes plot,
Horror,
location,
ensemble,
gore,
music,
and most importantly,
vibes. Today looking at Dawn of the Dead.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
The people it kills get up and kill.
I think for plot, I have to go with the original, the 1978 version. We start in a newsroom with chaos erupting, people leaving their positions, papers being thrown around, whilst in the remake, instantly we just cut to the apocalypse. Everyone is dead. We're with a very small group of survivors. Whilst the original, we really see the slow decay and crumbling of society, which makes the way they build up a new society in the shopping centre way more interesting than in the remake.
For me with the plot, while it's largely the same as the original, I think the remake is just elevated a little bit more. I think it's got that snappy 2000s pacing that just really helps the story move along. And yeah, I just think it's more action-packed. I like that we're just thrown straight into the apocalypse and you just have to catch up with the characters. I just find that personally more interesting. I'm going to go for the bit more fast-paced remake for plot.
Now, I'll give the remake this. The baby scene is horrific. I don't like it. I never want to see it again. I mean, it's great. I don't like it. I've seen an extended version of it thanks to the director's cut. Thank you, James Gunn, and thank you, Zack Snyder. Now, that being said, the original has some really great eerie moments of horror. You've got the basement scene, you've got the man biting his own wife, but also most importantly is the zombies themselves. In the remake, they are these snarling, aggressive zombies, whilst in the original, they're these sort of lifeless, almost soulless vessels that have this eerie look about them. They all look just about human, but not quite. I think that really works in the film.
So for horror for me, I am going to go for the remake again. I think it's just the fast-paced zombies, obviously inspired by 28 Days Later, but I think it's a really fun take on the zombies. I think they're really creepy and just horrific to look at. And as we said before, the birth scene, horrific. Never want to see that again in my life. But it made me feel something, and I think I have to give it credit for that. Whereas the original to me is not scary. It's just a bunch of people in grey face paint, moving really slowly, just kind of meandering about. Some of them don't even have face paint on in certain scenes. You can quite clearly look at certain scenes and go, oh, that one doesn't have face paint on. Oh, that one's hands are normal. And that just kind of threw me out of the original, whereas I was fully invested in the remake because it is just so on top of the violence and the horror. For me, it sells the horror better than the original.
Looks like a shopping center, one of those big indoor malls.
Now for the location, I do prefer the original again. Trust me, I do like the remake, I promise you. However, the original, you just get a better sense for the location, the actual geography of the mall itself, as well as the survivors actually sort of make it their own. You see how they take things from other stores and like really make it a home, as well as you can use that to see a sort of sense of time passing, whilst in the remake, you don't really get a sense of how much time they've been there. It kind of feels like they've been there like 2 weeks maximum. Now, I do like the gun store. I do like the kids' world. I think there are some really good locations in the remake. I think the original just, you know them all more.
I'm still going for the remake in terms of location. I like the opening of the film more. I like this cul-de-sac that we're introduced to and our main character driving frantically around the cul-de-sac as this apocalypse has started overnight. I think it's really fun. And once they're at the mall, I think it's an interesting mall setup. I really love that the coffee shop is called Hallowed Grounds. I think it's a really funny pun. Little bits like that really make a film for me. And I really like everything else they do. Obviously, they spend a lot of time in the mall, but I like the rooftop where we have Ving Rhames on the rooftop talking by kind of signs on a board to the man in the gun shop across the road. I really like it. I think it's really fun. And the journey towards the marina at the end is interesting. I love how much paper is scattered around the place. I don't really understand where all this paper has come from. If this happened in 2025, there would not be this much paper laying around. But it just adds to all the chaos of the world that has happened. Like Monty said, it's kind of an undetermined amount of time since it started to where we find them at the end of the film, but even if it is just a few days, it really highlights the chaos of the world that has just erupted since this all started. So for me, it is going to be the remake for location as well.
They're after us. They know we're still in here.
So, this is one where I will actually give it to the remake. Now, I do love the original characters, but I don't feel like anyone has a classic arc. I quite enjoy that to a degree. However, in the remake, we actually see people grow and change and, develop as characters. Plus, you also have Vin Rames, and that kind of just puts it up by 20 points by default. I think him and his relationship with Andy, the gun store owner across the street, is really sweet. And I think the rest of the ensemble, whilst sort of just painful one-note, one-sentence stereotypes, are very fun and interesting. It's a very popcorn flick 2000s movie, but I don't need it to be more than that.
Hopping off the back of that, I am going to agree that the remake does have a better ensemble. For me, no one really sticks out in the original as majorly interesting or, like Monty said, having a lot of development. But with the remake, I think the fact that there are dislikable characters means that they've done a good job writing them, and the actors have done a good job performing, because there are some characters who you're just like, oh God, you're an idiot. Or just having a reaction, I think, means something, to me at least. So I would have to give it to the remake. As we said, Ving Rhames is a legend, and I think he really takes on the lead role of this film really well. And a little bit of Ty Burrell is pretty great, especially as I knew him as Phil from Modern Family first, so I've always known him as kind of a sweet and goofy guy. And then to see this, I think, oh, he's swearing, he's mean, and he's sexist. I don't like it. Because I'm having that reaction, I think I have to give it to the remake for having a bit of a better ensemble.
That's good.
Now I am going to go back to the original. Tom Savini is the master of gore, and he is that for a reason. I love the fact that he was meant to work on the original Night of the Living Dead, couldn't work on it due to being drafted into Vietnam, worked as a war photographer, and then came back and used those images as reference. I love the exploding head with a shotgun, where they just filled a head full of condoms of blood and shot it with a real shotgun. I love the scene of the man biting his wife. It's one of the most realistic zombie bites I've ever seen. There's so many amazing things in this movie, along with some zombie makeup. I think it's really good. The guy getting his arm ripped off at the blood test machine is great. In the remake, you've got some fun shots, but I just don't think anything can compare to Tom Savini's work.
I think we can compare to Tom Savini's work, because unsurprisingly, I'm going for the remake again. I just think the gore is off the charts in this film. As we said earlier, the birth scene is horrific and it's disgusting, and it just makes my skin crawl when I watch that scene. I think this film has a really excellent first bite. The little girl biting the guy in bed. Horrific first thing to happen. Gross. But I think it's way more bloody, way more gruesome. There's like a legless zombie in the parking lot at one point that's disgusting. I love the chainsaw going out the side of their kind of makeshift van that they put together. I think it's gross, and I think it's really gory. I am going to go for the remake here.
I like this song.
So for music, I've got to go for the remake. Now, there is a version of the original Dawn of the Dead with great music made by Gore. However, we are using strictly the theatrical releases of these films. And the stock music choices in the original Dawn of the Dead are interesting. Be it the odd clown music that the film both ends on and uses for the pie-facing scene, or the sort of A-Team-esque action beats. Wild to go for stock music when you have a band make music just for your film. George Romero will always disagree with me on that with his music choices there. The remake, you got Johnny Cash, you got great needle drops in there. You just can't beat that.
Shockingly, I'm going to agree here. I think there's nothing really that stands out to me in the original as a great soundtrack. And as Monty just said, the fact that there's a pie-facing scene in this film just loses all credibility for a truly gory film, not to harp on the gore category from before. But in terms of music, even just the DVD menu, I'd Get Down With the Sickness, which is an incredible song, and just gets you in the mood for this film straight away. And there are just some really, really good needle drops throughout. It starts with Have a Nice Day at the start before the chaos kicks in. I think it's a really funny song to be using at the start of a horror film, and I think it just elevates the film just a little bit. And speaking of elevate, there's great elevator music in the mall as well. I think it's I'm All Out of Love, which is a hilarious song to have in the elevator while they're all fighting for their lives, basically. And just the ambient mall music in the background as well. It's just a nice little subtle thing going on in the background, but it's still a recognizable song. And then we come back to Get Down with the Sickness at the end as well. And I think it's just a nice way to tidy up the film. So I am gonna go remake here.
Get down to the line, folks.
I love the zombies, I love the eerie look. I love that they don't run. It makes them this slow, ever-growing threat that you can like run from, you can attack a couple, but they just keep coming, as opposed to the remake where they're sort of running at you. It's a very action-loaded film, whilst the original sort of has this slow, quiet dread that you have to deal with constantly.
For me, for vibes, I think unsurprisingly, it is the remake again. And I will preface this by saying I don't think it's a great movie. It's definitely enjoyable, but I don't necessarily think it's a great movie. For me, it was a ton more enjoyable than the original. I just really don't vibe with the original at all. I don't think that's going to come as a shock by the way I've spoken about it in this video, but I did not enjoy the original when I watched it. Whereas the remake has that 2000s pacing and action, and that just does a little bit more for me. You know, call me basic, but sit me in front of an action film, I'm pretty content. So for me, I am going to go for the remake.
Now we're going to take our scores, put it in our Phlegm Vibes machine and find out categorically, unequivocally, what is the best film. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The remake, categorically, scientifically better. Remember, you can't argue against science. Now, you might agree with this, and if you do, let us know. Show us in the comments what you think each film does better or worse than the other. Now, Emily, do you like horror films with hammy acting, which may or may not have been directed by George A. Romero?
I don't know.
Well, I do. And if you do too, you can check out our video on Maximum Overdrive, which was allegedly ghost directed by George A. Romero because Stephen King was too high on cocaine. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your time. Bye!
See ya.